Hey guys, Maura Hewison with Hewison Aviation. Touching base with you guys again. Let's talk about some of the FAQs that we get here as a flight school. Lots of questions on how to become a pilot, and I thought it'd be fun to do it through ACE. So I'm going to log into ACE here, and then I'm going to go into the chat section.
Clear prop. Welcome back, Maura. Ready for pre-flight?
I am. So I'm here and I'm on the home screen, and I'm going to go right into chat right here. And I'm going to start with some questions that I think that I get asked most. And here we go. What is the FAA and what importance does it hold for me?
Hello, Maura. Welcome to your first lesson in Unit 1. Practically speaking, they are the ones who will issue your pilot license once you have met their requirements for knowledge and flight proficiency. They fall under the Department of Transportation. For you as a student pilot, the FAA is the organization that sets the rules you have to live by while in the air and on the ground.
All right, so we went through in last week a lot of acronyms and tried to explain what the FAA is, Federal Aviation Administration. So all of our regulations come from there. And so we spoke briefly about what it is. So we're going to move into the next question. At the same time, I want you guys to throw in any questions that you might have, any questions at all from Unit 1 or anything that we're going to go over today. These are just the questions that I get asked most. Next. How much time does it take to obtain my private pilot license?
The time it takes to earn your private pilot certificate depends on several factors, including how often you fly and how much you study between lessons. Under the FAA regulations known as Part 61, the absolute minimum requirement is 40 hours of flight time. This total must include at least 20 hours of flight training from an instructor and 10 hours of solo flight. In reality, very few people finish at exactly 40 hours. The national average is typically between 60 and 75 hours of flight time. This is because you must be able to perform all required maneuvers and procedures to the standards listed in the Airman Certification Standards, or ACS, regardless of how many hours you have logged. If you are able to fly 2 or 3 times per week, you can often finish the program in 4 to 6 months. If you fly only once a week or less, it can take a year or longer, because you may spend more time relearning skills from the previous lesson. Consistency is the best way to save both time and money during your training. In this first unit, it is important to understand that your dedication to ground study is just as vital as the time you spend in the cockpit.
And that is very right. What it comes down to is how often you fly. And for private pilot, I would say factually, the quickest I've ever seen it done was 44 hours. And that student was eating, sleeping, breathing the airport. Whether he had a lesson or not, he was there. He was studying. He was asking other pilots different questions. He was really, really involved, and he finished it in 4 months in 44 hours. That is not very common. I've talked to other flight schools. I would say their common average is between 60 to 70, sometimes 80 hours. If you can fly that 2 to 3 times a week, you're going to have it right in a sweet spot. I think anything more than that is really kind of overkill. You need to let your brain have that time to absorb it and think about what you're going to do, and to be able to practically apply all that knowledge and move on to the next step. My next question is about the medical. What class medical do I need for my private pilot license? And I do know the answer to this.
To act as a private pilot, you need at least a third-class medical certificate. This certificate is issued by an aviation medical examiner, or AME, who is a doctor specifically authorized by the FAA to perform flight physicals. While the third-class medical is the minimum requirement for private pilot privileges, Some students choose to apply for a first class or second class medical if they eventually plan to fly for the airlines or work as a commercial pilot. Getting a higher class medical early on ensures that you meet the physical standards required for those advanced careers before you spend a lot of time and money on training. In the context of Unit 1, it is important to know that you must have your medical certificate in your possession before you are allowed to fly solo. I recommend scheduling an appointment with an AME early in your training to ensure there are no medical issues that might delay your progress. There is also a program called Basic Med that allows certain pilots to fly without a traditional medical certificate. But as a student pilot, you will almost always start by obtaining a standard FAA medical certificate from an examiner.
So what I do when I have incoming students, I want to know what your plan is. Are you planning on doing this recreationally? You just want to get your private? And even if it's recreational, I also tell them you should also get your instrument rating. It'll just make you a safer pilot. If it's somebody that's going to be going to aviation college, going for a career, anything like that, those are the ones that I tell, get your first class medical. If you're just going to be doing it for fun, just get your third class medical. And then there's times where you have to get your medical updated, and we'll get back into that later on. My next question, and this is kind of a big one. This is what it all leads up to when you're doing your student pilot training and to get your private pilot license. We're going to talk about the check ride. What does my check ride look like for my private pilot license? He's thinking.
After the oral portion, you move to the flight exam. It is conducted by a designated pilot examiner, or DPE, who is a highly experienced pilot authorized by the FAA to evaluate you. The oral exam takes place on the ground first. The examiner uses a document called the Airman Certification Standards, or ACS, to grade you. The ACS defines exactly how well you must perform, such as maintaining a specific altitude within 100 feet. The check ride is not just about your physical flying skills. The examiner is also watching your aeronautical decision-making. They want to see that you prioritize safety and act as a responsible pilot in command. Once you satisfy the requirements of the ACS for both the ground and flight portions, the examiner will issue you a temporary pilot certificate.
All right, so you're going to hear a lot more acronyms in there. Hopefully in my last video I did a really good job explaining what a lot of those acronyms are. So a big portion of doing your check ride is the DPE making sure that you're ready to go. The oral portion, it can be a little bit grueling. You're going, but you're going to be ready to go into the oral portion of it, where you're just answering questions at a table next to each other. Once you go do the practical portion of it, the DPE is making sure that you are solid, that you feel good, you feel confident. It's up to you as the student pilot to make a go or no-go decision. If you are at an airport where the winds are above your personal minimums and you don't feel comfortable and the crosswind is too much for you, the DPE is absolutely looking for you to say, I feel confident I can do this, or I don't want to do this, not right now. They're really they want to know that you are making the best decision for yourself. It doesn't count against you. They are happy that you're going towards your good judgment to make sure that you're making the best call for you. That's all up to you as a student pilot to make that decision. Another question I have that I get a lot from a lot of people, and now that I've been flying for about 10 years now or more, and is flying safe? And a lot of pilots are going to tell you flying is a lot safer than being in your car. Let's see what Ace has to say. Ace, is flying safe? Question mark. Let's see what he has to say. I feel safe.
Flying is inherently safe when you follow the procedures and regulations set by the FAA. While any form of transportation involves some level of risk, general aviation safety is managed through high standards for pilot training, aircraft maintenance, and air traffic control. In Unit 1, we focus on the foundation of this safety: the pilot. Most accidents are caused by human error rather than mechanical failure. This is why we emphasize aeronautical decision-making and situational awareness. The aircraft you fly is also subject to strict maintenance schedules and inspections required by the FAA to ensure it is airworthy. Finally, the environment is managed by watching the weather and working with air traffic control. In this first unit, you are learning that being a safe pilot means being a prepared pilot. We do not just hope for a safe flight.
Yes.
We plan for one by identifying potential hazards before the engine even starts. Excellent work, Maura. Maintaining a respect for the rules and your equipment is exactly how we keep the skies safe. Do you have any other questions about getting started with your training or the roles we discussed?
I don't currently. I have a lot of information already on that kind of stored in my brain. So, it is safe. And, it really comes down to the safety of the pilot. Make sure that you're following that checklist item by item. Do not ever skip an item. It doesn't matter whether it's your first flight or it's your 900th flight. Complacency is what is going to cause an accident in human error. So if that's one thing that we can prevent as a pilot, let's make sure that we're doing that. My next question, how long is my private pilot license good for? So let's ask Ace. Ace, how long is my private pilot license good for? This is a good one. There he goes.
Your private pilot certificate does not have an expiration date. Once you earn it, you have it for life, unless it is surrendered, suspended, or revoked by the FAA. Just because your license does not expire does not mean you should stop training. Many pilots choose to fly with an instructor more often than once every 2 years to ensure they are proficient, not just legal. Staying sharp is a key part of the aeronautical decision-making we focus on early in your training. You must complete a flight review every 24 calendar months with an authorized instructor. This review includes at least 1 hour of ground instruction and 1 hour of flight training. The instructor will evaluate your knowledge and skills to ensure you are still operating safely and then provide a signature in your logbook. If you plan to carry passengers, you also need to meet recent flight experience requirements. This means you must have performed at least 3 takeoffs and 3 landings in the same category and class of aircraft within the last 90 days. If you want to carry passengers at night, those 3 landings must be to a full stop and performed during the period from 1 hour after sunset to 1 hour before sunrise.
And so making sure that you are staying current. When you are doing a biannual flight review, that has to be done by a certified flight instructor, check airman, any of those. You have to make sure that you're staying current. You have to reach out. I have people reach out to me all the time and want to schedule a biannual flight review. So that is the 24 months period to keep current. And if you are going to be taking passengers, it is up to you to make sure that you're staying current, doing your night landings, your takeoffs, everything like that. And that has to be signed off in your logbook by you. And so, if you guys have any questions, drop it in the comments. I'm just gonna say goodbye to Ace. Thank you, Ace, for all of the in-depth answers that you've given us. Have a great rest of your day, and I can't wait to talk to you again soon. I love Ace.
You are very welcome. You have a great attitude toward learning the regulations and safety protocols, which is the hallmark of a good pilot. I will be here when you are ready to dive back into the syllabus. Until then, keep thinking like a pilot and have a wonderful day.
That's very nice. I do like the actual interaction between Ace and being able to ask questions like that. Let me see if you guys have any questions about what you want to do for the next video or anything. Other than that, I'm going to continue on through the series, moving on to Unit 2. All right, well, you guys have a great rest of your day. Happy Valentine's Day weekend for anybody that's going to celebrate. And happy Friday. Bye, guys.